Ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Camera 3 rolling. Why am I always out of coffee?
Yeah, I don't know why this coffee sucks.
So we're all over at the Costley Courthouse, and from the basement we hear this kind of ethereal bass lick that none of us had ever heard before. And what it was Yop by himself sitting next to his amp playing this riff that he'd written about Jada, his wife. And I remember Brendan, shot up like a cannon and ran right downstairs because it triggered something in him. Then he was like, hey, we're going to develop this into like a song, and it's going to be an important one. And we all kind of followed suit with that. And that's how the song was born. That's how we got Mana. Setting out to make the record, we got a gift in Scott Lambert on guitar. A thoughtful, sensitive soulmate for our humble little unit of nerds. I could ramble on about the guy forever, and it still wouldn't do him justice. We got to work writing.
I was in paramedic school and everybody else was working, but we got this scheme where we were off for the first half of the weekend.
And we'd all be in my mom's basement.
She didn't care if we made a medium amount of noise. So we'd have like acoustic guitars or clean guitars, I think at night, and then we would just sit up writing.
Scott would come in from Columbus Thursday night.
I didn't have any friends really in Columbus outside of the crew that I worked with. I can't remember the name of the vehicle at the time, but it was like a hatchback, and I could open the back and I had my guitar back there. And I would just kind of sit and play. I would just bring it back to you guys, and you'd all tell me how awful it was, because you're like,
I told you all the time how terrible.
You're like, why you playing this like sad, sappy stuff? That's when Brendan really kind of came along and taught me how to really like give some legs to some of these riffs I was writing.
I always kind of thought of the band as like a basketball team, where you have like your point guard who initiates the offense, and then you have your shooting guard that comes off of screens and pick and rolls and whatnot and fills it up, and then you got your rhythm section, which is like your front court, your center, your power forward, and kind of hold it all down, and then you got your superstar wing who's like the vocalist, and that's kind of how I always thought about it. And Scott and I were like combo guards, kind of, where we would sort of take turns initiating the offense.
We would split up and like two of us at a time would play together to see if like our parts would work. So right down to like vocals and Scott's guitar, or like Scott and Brendan's guitar, or Brendan and Yop's bass.
The writing process for that whole thing was organic. I mean, it would just be one of us coming up with a riff and we'd jam on it for a little bit.
I was trying to like up my game to kind of match his style, and then suddenly had this sound that just was unique.
I had notebook after notebook, and I'd be sitting down with people looking for ideas to plug into melodies that I had, really trying to create good works of art.
Definitely felt like this kind of compromise rather than just two different types of paintbrushes, you know what I mean?
As a drummer, was a little tricky for me because I couldn't play necessarily, since I was, the loudest instrument in the group, and it was often 1, 2 in the morning.
Hey! Oh, you got nothing to do on February 15th? Yeah! We're playing Drop the Zero! Drop the Zero! That's February 15th at the Robin Hood in Kent! Who we playing with? Who we playing with? We're gonna be playing with the Bucks.
There was a lot of boozing on those Thursday nights. And then, to quote my buddy Billy, we would wake up in a pile of pizza boxes and cigarette ash. And then we would start rehearsing for the shows we had that weekend. So we would actually write all our new stuff that was going to be for Mana all night through Thursday till like 4 a.m.
And then Friday morning, so we'd actually play songs, which is where I then had to remember everything we had talked about. It was always the most fun for me because we had spent so much time the night before kind of like going over in detail, and then Friday was just kind of like throwing the paint on the canvas after we'd gotten the paint ready on Thursday.
And in the meantime, our manager Jake,
Who we met from selling Mushroom Head tickets to.
Jake? Who's Jake? I don't know the guy. Never met him.
Just kidding. We love Jake.
was coming over and like prodding us along because we were all just incompetent, drunken children.
I don't know if we conned him or if he's still conning us, but we're still friends.
Connor would call him Godzilla Jake because he was most of the time.
He was working the third shift.
He's kind of has this great kind of work ethic, and he was even coming to us after working 12-hour shifts. He'd come just to work another shift with us.
So after a night of drinking and being hungover in the morning, he would show up with more beer because it was his weekend.
Jake started out as a fan. Then he became a friend. He's our 6th member. If our band is a ship, he's our captain. He'd tell you that's not true, but trust me, nothing could happen in this band without him giving us his time, his effort, and his direction.
Holy shit, Jake is in front of a camera.
Yeah, this ain't normal.
Oh my gosh, look how uncomfortable he is. He turned his head around. Unbelievable. Okay. How did you get to meet our band, Jake?
I met Derek first.
I was filling in for Amplexus on an acoustic show, and he came back with his Medina people and was like, yo, I think you sold tickets to me. And I was like, you're right. Did you ever look at my band? He goes,
Honestly, it's not all that good.
I'm like, oh, okay, great.
We started hanging out. Like, it was like one of those things where there was after parties and said, come on back to I think the Compound was the first time I partied with you guys, and then Costly Court.
Medina, Kent Medina.
Just became friends really quick.
Jake wanted to work with us to promote a grassroots benefit concert with him he'd conceived.
I had a coworker that his daughter had cancer, and I was like, I think we could probably do a show and make some money, and donate it to Akron Children's because that's where they were going. And I remember asking Connor at Costly that, if he would be willing to do that. He's like, absolutely.
The idea was to put on a huge show with all the biggest local bands in the area. To raise awareness, people involved would grow beards for the month of November. Keep in mind, we were young and it wasn't easy back then to grow a beard. The name of the show, Novembeard for the Cure.
Friday, November 28th, the Robin Hood Bar and Grill presents the 2nd annual Novembeard for the Cure, where all proceeds go to the Akron Children's Hospital Cancer Ward, featuring Drop to Zero, Amplexus. Also, state your call.
It went off without a hitch. We raised a ton of money and realized we worked really well with Jake.
I was like, we need someone else on the outside to wrangle all these kittens. That's us, to get us in a direction we need to go. And Jake's like, I'll do it.
He became a promoter, a manager, and an outside set of eyes and ears, camera in tow, to document our journey.